Ketchupedia!
Ooh, I like that
nice.
one.
Okay, one more time.
I'm going to try it again. Okay.
Ketchupedia Words for Writers podcast and Ketchupedia Poetry Radio is a program by Flying Ketchup Press in Kansas City, Missouri to develop new and diverse voices. Our dream is to salvage lost treasure troves of written and illustrated work, to create worlds of wonder and delight, to share your story. Find us at www.flyingketchuppress.com.
Hello, and welcome to a Word Power episode. I'm Polly Alice McCann.
And I'm Houtwed.
And I know that our readers and listeners have been very excited about some writing terminology.
Yes.
We've got some real writing nerds out there.
Yeah, we do. It's because it's so much fun, that's why.
It's fun and you need the tools.
Yeah.
So, what word should we do today?
Well, I thought I'd pick an easier one. We could do aside.
Aside.
Yes, aside.
That doesn't even sound like a word. It sounds like something you order at a
Aside.
restaurant. A side of fries.
Aside is a character's words to oneself, usually for the audience's benefit. I think we see it a lot more in older writing.
I think that's like in a play.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't call it that in a story, would you?
I think you still could, yeah. I've written asides before.
I love it in a play when the actor stops and talks to the audience. I don't know, it makes me laugh every time.
They're like this,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Especially in kids' plays, they do it a lot.
They're like, you don't know this, and no one else knows this, but I do. So you kind of know what's going to happen before anyone else does.
Yeah, I remember seeing the Briar Rabbit.
Briar Rabbit.
Briar Rabbit, and he's running away from the fox.
Uh-huh.
And he says, he tells the fox, "Don't throw me in that briar patch." And then, but he tells the audience something else. Don't worry, I grew up there. But how in the world would you put an aside and in a piece of writing? Or is that just metafiction?
Yeah.
Which is what?
Metafiction, that's actually another one of our words, but metafiction is when the character is directly addressing the audience and the world that the audience lives in. Okay. Especially making commentary. There's a lot of political examples nowadays, but making commentary on our world that we live in. So a good example of that would be there's a Barbie movie. I saw a clip of it.
There's a Barbie movie with an aside. I don't know if that counts as writing.
Not an aside, but the metafiction.
Okay.
And the little Barbie. It's not Barbie, but it's the little girl in the movie.
Yeah.
And she's trying to make a fire.
Yeah.
With sticks in the forest, and she's rubbing them together to try and get them to start. And she's like, "Oh, they won't rub together. They're all made of plastic." Which is hilarious because the Barbie characters aren't supposed to know that they're made of plastic.
Okay, so that breaks.
That's metafiction.
The fourth wall or something.
Yeah. Breaking the fourth wall is basically.
Or is that the third?
No.
There's a fourth wall and a fifth wall.
It's the fourth wall. I don't know what the fifth wall is. That sounds kind of.
Oh, yeah. The fourth wall is when you make an aside and you break the wall between yourself and the audience. The character and the audience.
Uh-huh.
And so the character will talk directly to the audience. The fifth wall is when it is broken between two different stories. So an actor who plays the part in two different movies will break the wall and say something about some other piece of fiction.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Crazy, yeah?
Yeah.
But it happens.
Mm-hmm. Do you have an example?
It mostly happens in movies.
Yeah.
I do have an example for metafiction or talking to the audience. So C.S. Lewis in the Narnia books.
Yeah.
He does that. He has a nice narrator who stops and talks to the audience sometimes.
Yeah. And
gives them a little bit of outside information, grandfatherly, about the characters or about what's happening. And that's really a nice tone, but it's really hard to get away with that nowadays.
Yeah.
And it's hard to do it outside of children's literature.
Mm-hmm.
The other one I've read is, this one's by Brandon Sanderson, Alcatraz versus the Evil Librarians.
Oh, right.
I love these books. It's a whole series, and each
Is it children's?
yeah, it's children's books, and each librarian, the librarians are the evil guys for some reason, and then the people who are trying to save the world are all named after prisons.
Okay.
Because for some reason they've been, put down by society.
Yeah.
And they all each have a special gift, and the gift is something like breaking things or being late, but then they'll use it as a superpower. So like he'll come late to his own murder, and so he doesn't die. Things like that. It's really fun, and and the narrator does constantly make fun of his own writing, do crazy things, talk to the reader in totally inexplicable ways. And I find this is very common in boys' fiction, young boys' fiction. If they don't have a narrator who breaks and does the asides and breaks the wall, then they don't like it as much. And it could have to do with sarcasm. Satire.
Yeah.
Making fun of themselves.
Yeah.
As the writer. Is that what you mean by satire?
Well, I think satire is like...
making fun of everyone?
I think satire, isn't it more so like when I think of satire, I immediately go to either, is it Animal Farm?
Yeah.
Is that satire? Because it's like commentary.
It's an analogy more.
Is it really?
Allegory.
Maybe I'm thinking of The Jungle. Is that satire? No, definitely not. Okay.
I don't think so.
I read The Jungle a long time ago, so I don't remember. But basically, like, you're making a connection to, like, kind of poke fun at something else, like something greater. And you would do that through an aside.
Okay. How about Neil, how do you say his name? Gaiman?
I think it's Gaiman.
Gaiman?
I don't know, though.
So he wrote this one, The Ocean at the End of the Lane, and he wrote that one about it's like the end of the world.
He wrote Coraline.
I think he does a lot of asides, like talking to the reader a little bit, giving them a little bit of assurance or...
I have read Neil Gaiman before. I don't remember which book it was, though.
I think he might, just a little bit, or else his narrators are often the main character, but his narrators are really strong, so I think there's some asides in there.
Mm-hmm.
Have you read any of his books?
I read one of them, but I cannot remember what it was.
This one, The Ocean at the End of the Lane, blew my mind. I just loved it. But he is very prolific. I don't know. We would have to work hard, though, to find a woman author who does it. I don't know why women might do it less. Can you think of anyone? What about The Help? Does that have a strong narrator?
I haven't seen the movie of that either.
Oh, you should. So have you ever used to, talked directly to your readers in your own writing?
No. I feel like that goes more along with, first of all, a really casual tone, which I don't use that often. Well, sometimes I do. But it also would be, like, second-person point of view, especially being like, you need to know this about my life, or whatever.
Okay.
Like, the main character, like, speaking to the audience as if they were their friend.
Okay.
That's, like, that would be second-person point of view. Yeah, because you're using you.
I've only read one book in second person, and it was a vampire book. Very well done.
Did it have asides?
Yeah, because second person is all aside.
Yeah. It's like a giant
You
aside.
figured it out.
Yeah.
It is talking to the reader.
But it's also like if you can do first person point of view, but if the tone, I don't know if tone's the right word, but if the tone is very casual, that would have a lot of asides as well, because you're just like...
Yeah, it's not just casual, it's point of view toward speaking casually to the reader.
Yeah.
So like this one, Good Omens by Neil Gaiman. I
heard that was a really great show. It was on Amazon Prime. I think it's still on there.
Well, I read the book, and I remember thinking I was really glad the narrator stopped and talked to me a few times to give me kind of like a don't die, everything's going to be okay
yeah,
kind of thing. And
even though the characters don't know that, though.
Yeah, it is very satirical, I guess, and kind of making fun of himself as the writer and a little bit of fun of the story.
Yeah.
And the other one that I really love that he wrote is The Graveyard Book.
Yeah, might have in like middle school.
I remember thinking it was like the best piece of literature I'd come across in a long time because I had to read all these for my young adult writing program.
Mhm.
What I loved about it is that it's based kind of on the Jungle Book. But you have to have a really strong narrator in this story because in a story like the Jungle Book or the Graveyard Book, you have like a protagonist who's like a small boy who can't take care of himself. So he's not even old enough to narrate the beginning of his own story. So you kind of need a narrator.
Yeah.
So that's why I say this kind of writing is probably going to happen in a children's book.
He also wrote Stardust, and
Yeah.
that is top 5, one of my favorite movies.
Really?
I love that movie.
It's like the oldest running movie on Netflix comes up number 1 every day.
Yeah.
Why? Why does it?
It's so good. Have you ever seen it?
Yeah?
God, it's so good.
Why?
Just like how Tristan, like, he goes through this. He's like, I'll get you that shooting star so that you'll marry me. And then he goes, and it turns out the shooting star is like the one she helps him, like, because she's a person.
Oh, the shooting star is a person.
Yeah, and he has to go on an adventure with her, and he ends up falling for her. I'm a sucker for romance, obviously, but also just, like, his character arc is really well done, I think, because he's, like, so focused. That's his goal, you know, every main character has their goal.
He's a romantic hero.
He's like, I'm going to get this. My goal is to get this shooting star. And he gets the shooting star, and it just kind of, like, flips his world upside down, and he's just like, wait, is this what I actually wanted all along? Because he goes, this is a spoiler.
He goes into a storybook world.
Yeah. Well, yeah. He goes past the wall. And
A
goes
special
into
wall into the fictional realm.
Yeah.
So I guess that's what an aside does.
Yeah.
He leaves the fictional realm
Well,
and goes out to the reader,
yeah.
for the viewer.
Yeah.
So yeah, it has to do with kind of breaking that wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really love Neverending Story.
Oh, yeah.
The movie.
Yeah.
I read the book, which is okay, but the book, I just love the movie so much, and I think you can use that as a really good map for how creative writing works.
Mm-hmm.
So in the story, Sebastian is told he can only save this fictional world by using his imagination.
Mm-hmm.
And if people start using their imaginations, that fictional world will stay alive. And I really love that as like a metaphor for all creativity. If we keep writing, the fictional world stays alive, and it's important. You know, we can't not have it.
Yeah.
We'd be half
Right.
without it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The story has been around forever. We got to keep it.
And sometimes it's nice to have a nice, comforting narrator or character talk to you, the reader. It's just fun.
Yep.
So maybe people will try it and we'll see what happens.
Yep.
Ketchupedia is brought to you by Flying Ketchup Press. What began as a collection of words for writers is now a springboard for classes, podcasts, and radio, one word at a time. Ketchupedia's name, logo, jingle, and concept were created with help from students from Kansas City Art Institute and Greenville University's Experience First capstone class, and inspired by our friends at Steele's Used Books. Join us every week on Sundays at 6 o'clock Central on One Kansas City Radio, KONN 100.1 FM, or wherever you get your podcasts.